This is for the ones keep talking about get off Section 8. I have some reasons of why to stay on Section 8. Because one, ain't nobody asked us to go have these kids, and there ain't nobody asked us to tell us that life was going to be hard back then. That it's easier now. So as a mother, I raised all my kids, and I raised them well. And they all are grown. And I'll be damned why it's time for me to live my life. I'm going to give my Section 8. So why I got to give up my Section 8? Because I did all the right things. In the damn Section 8, ain't no more zero rent. Ain't no $5 rent. These people don't went up like market rent. So you think I'm going to give up my Section 8? Because y'all say I've been on it a long time. As long as I got life, I'm going to stay on my Section 8. Yeah, me, I'm going to stay on my Section 8. So y'all get off that by you too old to be on Section 8. No, you too old to be talking about Section 8. Well, you build some apartments and some houses and say I can live there. Then I'll give my Section 8. Until then, leave me and my Section 8 alone.
Shalom. I would like to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi Bahashem Rakakadash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all your sincere Akim, pushing his word across the four corners of the world. Just another news update through the spirit, the power, and the vibration of Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi. And as you just saw from this opening video of an older Eve just displaying her high level of entitlement. And that same sentiment mirrors a lot of these proudful Americans, where they feel totally entitled and believe that they deserve special treatments, advantages, and privileges, or just a sense of self-deservingness all owed to them. And when you have the White House also proposing elimination of Section A housing vouchers. And this Section A housing choice voucher was only a temporary assistance that was designed to assist low-income families, senior citizens, and also disabled people for a decent and a safe, affordable living. And to be frank, this type of rental assistance really should be allocated to the elderly, disabled people, or veterans. However, you have all these able-bodied people that are abusing this type of program and been on it for like 20 years. And they are passing it on down to their children like it's generational wealth. So again, that sense of entitlement within America is at an all-time high. And since I stated that, let's get right quick. Jeremiah 49:31. Arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation. And that wealthy nation is referring to America. That dwelleth without care. And a lot of these Americans are very careless. And once you go to the word careless, it also goes into stupid. And these proudful Americans are very complacent. They are totally saturated in comfort, like self-satisfaction. Hence, these able-bodied people, they are currently receiving Section 8, where they abuse this rental assistance program, sit at home most of the day, smoking weed, drinking, stuff like that. And where you will have people that really need it that's on the waiting list, such as disabled people or veterans or senior citizens, it would take years for them to be able to obtain it. And that further shows you how America really is a broken society with these unrighteous decrees and diabolical policies that are constantly being passed out. And really at the same time, it doesn't make sense. So arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation that dwelleth without care, saith the Lord Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi. So you will see a lot of economic turmoil, poverty, wars going on in these so-called third world countries. And most of these so-called third world countries are deemed as third world is mainly because Esau's westernization. And whereas this American government will take away these so-called third world countries' resources, it will have them to be with a poverty-stricken type of condition. So when these Americans see what's going on in the news while they read different articles concerning these so-called third world countries, they never take into consideration that this same type of economic turmoils or wars or poverty-stricken conditions can definitely come to your same doorsteps, which is where we are currently at within the end-time biblical prophecies that are concerning America, where we are about to witness a lot of homelessness. So again, arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation that dwelleth without care, saith the Lord YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, which have neither gates nor bars, which dwell alone. Verse 32, and their camels should be a booty, and a multitude of their cattle a spoil, and I will scatter into all winds them that are in the utmost corners, and I will bring their calamity from all sides thereof, saith the Lord YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI. Which takes me right again to this article. As you can see from the heading, 60,000 people set to prematurely lose federal housing assistance. And it says right here, the emergency housing vouchers program was supposed to last through 2030, but funding will probably run out sometime next year. And we are definitely witnessing the burden of Egypt, which is a biblically codified name for America. And this article was published on May the 13th, 2025. And it says, nearly 60,000 people in the U.S. will lose their federal housing assistance years before they anticipated, placing them at imminent risk of eviction and potential homelessness. A sweeping effort launched in 2021 allocated $5 billion to rapidly house the most vulnerable people at the height of the coronavirus pandemic. Those living on the streets, facing domestic violence, or experiencing human trafficking. The Emergency Housing Vouchers Initiative, a beefed-up version of the long-time Section 8 program, was slated to last through 2030, granting recipients housing security through the decade with the expectation that they will have the time and resources to wean off the assistance. But the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is HUD, said the money is running out early. In late April, HUD wrote to the nation's public housing authorities, which administer the federal program, with an estimate of how much cash is left to maintain the project. The remaining funds are likely to support families for another 18 months at most, housing officials said. After that, the officials and housing experts said many of the people who rely on the program are likely to again become homeless. HUD blamed the Biden administration for the early demise of the program, which was funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. Due to rapidly increasing inflation and housing costs during the Biden administration, HUD estimates that funding for emergency housing vouchers will only cover such costs through 2026, a spokesperson for the agency said in an email, adding that it will explore additional options for families supported by the program. Kim Johnson, Senior Director of Policy at the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, which advocates affordable housing, said the end of the program represents an awful cycle. Our assistance ran out because rent is too expensive. So now you have to figure out how to pay for your expensive rent on your own, even though you cannot afford it. Rents have ballooned in recent years, climbing about 19% between 2019 and 2024. Some of the steepest increases occurred in 2021 and 2022, when the Emergency Housing Voucher Program was rolled out. The program's end comes as the U.S. DOGE service has gutted HUD during the Trump administration's efforts to shrink the federal government, cuts that are likely to worsen America's housing crisis. It's unclear whether DOGE have a hand in the emergency housing voucher program's early end, housing experts said. President Donald Trump also proposed this month drastically chopping funding for federal housing programs that could serve as alternatives for families who prematurely lose their emergency housing vouchers. Housing authorities were still waiting Monday for guidance from HUD on how to support families who rely on the vouchers, which are distributed in big cities and small towns nationwide. The initiative offered higher rent caps than Section 8 vouchers and extra money for landlord incentives. It also required less documentation to ensure the unhoused could find shelter quickly. Housing advocates said the stability created by the program, which requires tenants to pay 30% of their income toward rent, gave way to other benefits, increased food security, as well as decreased psychological stress and domestic violence. The program's early end poses a particularly acute problem in California, where rents are soaring and homelessness rates have reached record highs. California received more than 15,000 emergency housing vouchers, the largest allotment of any state. Lisa Jones, president of the San Diego Housing Commission, said her agency expects to be able to continue serving the roughly 460 families in the program through early next summer. After that, she said her commission will have no funds to help them. There's a devastating impact to the families, she said, adding, to think that a year is going to give them enough time to prepare in some of the highest rental markets in the country is utterly unrealistic. The Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles anticipates that it can fund its program, which supports nearly 3,100 households until December 2026. Lourdes Castro Ramirez, its president, said the reality is simple. Without the funds, families are likely to return to homelessness. With 24,000 people in the city on waiting lists for other housing assistance programs, she said, we have very scarce resources. We'll jump down right here. Brian White, 57, is terrified. He said he has always worked, often multiple jobs, construction and dishwashing in San Diego, landscaping and painting homes in Malibu, but for 15 years, it wasn't enough to keep him off the streets. Then White's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease worsened, and work was no longer an option. He resigned himself to homelessness, eventually living in a tenant encampment in San Francisco's Tenderloin neighborhood. And again, these are the type of people, as this guy we just read about, who is pretty much disabled now, are the type of people that this public housing assisted programs should be allocated to. Not these American citizens who are mentally stable and able-bodied that they can be able to fully work, but just staying home all day and taking advantage of this public assistance program. Like, this really is a backward society. And that's because you would think that this high-level government agency will be able to have a better vetting process of these people seeking for public housing assistance. Which is why it's stated within Ecclesiasticus, the 10th chapter, how an unwise king would destroy his people. And that unwise king definitely is Esau Edom. So going back right here, it says, when the pandemic hits, a local nonprofit connected White with an emergency housing voucher, his life transformed. He was able to rent a one-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood in San Francisco. White pays about $400 of his $1,799 monthly rent, and a voucher covers the rest. Without the voucher, White expects to lose the apartment. I'm scared to death thinking about if I have to go back to the streets, he said. I won't last a month. And being scared or pessimistic or anxious, depressed, hopeless, just being within that spirit of despair, it's a growing expression upon the inhabitants of America within these end times. Which again, this is the burden of Egypt. And I just read an article earlier how Fall River Housing Authority, and I believe that's located in Massachusetts, just like a few hours ago, they asked their different landlords to defer Section 8 rent increases until further notice. So a lot of people are worried due to Trump's administration budget that will slash rental aid by 40%. And that means that a lot of people are going to be homeless within the streets of America. And how beautiful it is to see the city of confusion referencing to America being broken down right before our very own eyes within these end times. And as it's stated within Ecclesiasticus 25 verse 7, how we are literally seeing the downfall of our enemies. So call Entitlement, Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi for that. And that takes me right to Isaiah 19 verse 1. And this is within the NIV version, which is the New International Version. And it says, a prophecy against Egypt, and this Egypt is referencing to a spiritual Egypt, and that's America. See, the Lord Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi rides on a swift cloud, hence the chariots, and is coming to Egypt. And that's America again. The idols of Egypt tremble before him, and the hearts of the Egyptians melt with fear. And we just read within that article how that guy, he stated how he was very terrified. He was scared that once this federal funding be cut off for these housing vouchers, and he stated that he will be homeless within the streets of San Francisco. And he stated that he would not last for a month. So again, the idols of Egypt tremble before him, and the hearts of the Egyptians melt with fear. So therefore, their American pride or that American morale is being plummeted on a daily basis. And that's due to these draconian executive orders that this cruel Lord, Donald Trump, is implementing out here upon the inhabitants of America. And these prideful Americans are definitely crushed in the spirit. And you can see that like on your day-to-day basis when you walk past these people. They look very dismal in the spirit, have no sense of urgency, just looking totally hopeless out here. And this still within the so-called state of normalcy. So how much more when this American society really be broken down? Like from a civil standpoint, where it would be total lawlessness, chaos, and anarchy out here within the streets of America. I'm talking about apocalyptic type of vibration going on out here. And that takes me to verse 2. I will stir up Egyptian against Egyptian, brother will fight against brother, neighbor against neighbor, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. Like all these different political and social classes of people within America, all at odds. Verse 3, the Egyptians will lose heart, and I will bring their plans to nothing. So therefore, these people within America are heavily burdened about the current and future state of this American economy. Then on top of that, you have massive job layoffs, people getting thrown in the streets. Homelessness is brewing up more and more. The moral compass is at an all-time low. Like all of this indicates a pending societal collapse. So the Egyptians will lose heart, and I will bring their plans to nothing. They will consult the idols and the spirits of the dead, the mediums and the spiritists. I will hand the Egyptians over to the power of a cruel master, which happens to be Donald Trump, with his draconian executive orders. And he did a very great job of fooling these people. You know, these MAGA and Trump supporters. And a fierce king will rule over them, declares the Lord YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI Almighty. So going back to this opening video with that older Eve just spewing off at the mouth, talking about the reasons why she's not going off of Section A, she's going to keep it. And she was saying how no one asked her to have those kids and how life was going to be hard within the future. So by her raising her children well on Section A, who are now grown, by the way, she feels like she's still entitled to have Section A. Like that's supposed to be her reward for all she went through by raising her children. And like how I stated earlier, that sense of entitlement that's hardwired within these powerful Americans that dwell it without care. That spirit or vibration of entitlement, where you have a sense of self-deservingness or something being owed to you, which is another component that's totally ruining this American society. Like that lack of compassion, sympathy, or empathy for others. No society can be able to sustain with that type of negativity going throughout the atmosphere, where it's a negative vibration when everyone wants something from everyone else without fairly compensating others for their efforts. That's a low vibrational mindset. And you can thank the man of sin or that unwise king, which is Esau Edom, for that. But what she failed to realize, these public housing programs were never meant to be permanent or multi-generational. And like how she stated that she raised them well off of Section A, then she's probably been on Section A over 20-something years. Meanwhile, while you really have people out there like disabled or senior citizens or even veterans that really need it, they're not able to get it because of entitled individuals like that woman you saw at the beginning of this video. And I want to say that the Trump administration, they limited the Section 8 program for like 2 years, like where you could be on it, unless the recipient is disabled. But we are definitely within some critical times, and really you should have that mindset and to not solely rely on things within this carnal world, especially if it's coming from this American government. But that's that trap that Esau is going to catch up a lot of our people in. And that's because they trust within the shadow of Egypt, especially you westernized women. So let's get right quick. Isaiah 32 verse 9, the classic scripture. Rise up, ye women that are at ease, especially you westernized American women. They are heavily indoctrinated by that Babylonian wine, going into the wayward philosophies and ideologies that this serpent has programmed you with. He charmed you, and he was very subtle with it. That same spirit as he was within the garden with Eve. So again, rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear unto my speech. And the way that you give ear unto the speech of Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi via the mouth of his holy prophets ever since the world began. When you read the book of Luke, the 1st chapter, the 70th verse. And beginning from our elder apostles and bishops, spiraling on down to us, sincere Akim, look at all the constant spiritual warnings that we have been giving you Israelite women over the years. And we have been telling you through the spirit, very soon this devil, Esau Edom, will soon come down upon our people with great wrath. And that's because he knoweth that he has but a short time. You Israelite women willingly fell victim to it, hence the welfare system. And it was a quote from Walter Williams, and he stated, the welfare state has done to black Americans what slavery couldn't, what Jim Crow couldn't do, what the harshest racism couldn't do. And what was that couldn't do? To destroy the so-called black family unit, where the God of this world, Esau Edom, via this American government, employed you Israelite women as a weapon to be within opposition to your Israelite man. And currently on YouTube is documentaries on that, especially concerning the welfare system within Chicago in regards to this public housing complex that was called Caprini Greens within Chicago, Illinois. And throughout that documentary, you will see social workers doing a routine check at these low-income apartment complexes, and they will monitor and see if any man has been staying there. And if it's no sign or trace of a man staying there, then they will reward you women with incentives, aka gifts. And as it's stated within Ecclesiastes, how a gift destroyed the hearts or the mind, your spirit. And once you go into the etymology online for the word gift, it goes into poison, which embodies Esau Edom, or this so-called Caucasian race as a whole. Whenever they try to promote or offer you something for so-called freely, then you should already know by default it's tainted. It's not for your well-being or your best interests. Overall, it's all for your destruction as an Israelite. Because Esau knows exactly who we are as a people. It's just the vast majority of our people do not know who they are, according to the Bible. But like how I stated earlier, a lot of you Israelite women willingly fell victim to this. So therefore, it's going to be harsh consequences for that. And that takes me right to verse 10. Many days and years should you be troubled, ye careless women, for the vintage should fail, the gathering should not come. And that vintage can go into these government aid or assistance programs that were designed and catered for you women. And very soon, Esau is going to strip away all of these so-called goodies that he has supplied you all with. Verse 11, tremble, ye women that are at ease. And a lot of you westernized women are totally saturated in your comfort zone, like totally absorbed in your complacency. And you really believe that America is your happily ever after. Just like this simple elder Eve, as you saw at the beginning of this video. Like she really believes that she's going to ride down the sunset with this Section 8 housing voucher. And like nothing's going to happen to her. But she's going to be completely taken off guard, just like you proudful westernized women. when Esau Edom really comes down with that great wrath. So tremble, ye women that are at ease, be troubled, ye careless ones, strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. They shall lament for the teats, which goes into these nourishments, hence these government aiding programs, and also these special privileges that you have been showered with within this American society. Like that pretty privilege, or that ladies first mentality. You will see these different car wash or oil shops have specials for women on certain days throughout the week. Like 20% off or 30% off. So that special privilege that you westernized women have been showered with is soon about to be null and void very soon. Because that covenant that you have made with death should be disannulled. So they shall lament for the teats, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine. And that takes me right back to the title of this article, 60,000 people set to prematurely lose federal housing assistance. So a lot of family households within America are definitely going to be hurt, to the point of type of hurting that they will be homeless out here very soon. So with that, hopefully you all edified, you all stay strong, keep pushing forward. Shalom.